Last talk in this session block is about 400 gig ZR bidirectional optics. They can't hurt you, and the presenters are Arjan Koopen and Nicola von Thadden. Arjan is network architect at E3DNet, and Nicola is head of network at Pfalzcom. And they both, from what I hear, also work on building networks for non-profit events. Stage is yours.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Oh, perfect. You cannot see. Is the clicker? Okay. Hi, my name is Arjan, and this is Nico, and today we'll tell you something about the uplink that we've built for Y 2025. Y 2025 is this year's Dutch hacker camp, and with a team of volunteers, we've built a decent scale temporary ISP that has its own AS IP space, on-site fiber infrastructure, and we've deployed around 60 Thadden close, or those are the network POPs that we have installed across the field. Yeah, so the Dutch hacker camps, they've been going on for quite a while now. So the first one was organized in 1993, and since then, every 4 years, there has been a new hacker camp organized. This slide gives an overview of the last few hacker camps that we've organized and the type of uplink that we came up with. Yeah, in the last couple of editions, had a nice dark fiber connection when we were at the field in Zeewolde. And for Y 2025, we actually returned to the field at Geestmer Ambacht, which was the same field we used in 2013. But in 2013, we actually had to install 3 kilometers of fiber ourselves, and yeah, we didn't really want to have a repeat of that. But luckily enough, since 2013, there was a fiber to the home provider that had installed fiber onto the field, and we were able to use this fiber as a dark fiber. Yeah, and how did we get for Y 2025 from NICHEF onto the field? And for the folks that don't know, NICHEF is a data center in Amsterdam, and it's considered, I guess, one of the more interconnected data centers in Europe, I would say. And this is also where Event Infra has their equipment installed, and this is the network that we used for running the network on site. We worked with SURF, and SURF is the research network in the Netherlands. They have transmission network all across the country, and they offered us to get an alien wave on their infrastructure, and with that we could build a 400 gigabit coherent link from NICHEF to one of their customer sites, which is in Holland, which is a school that's in Alkmaar, that's nearby the field. But we still had to bridge a gap from there to the fiber to the home provider. So we had to rent a 35-kilometer dark fiber to KPN to get there. And from the fiber to the home provider, it was a simplex fiber all the way onto the field. Yeah, but the simplex does give some additional challenges because, yeah, in the past we did 100 gig and 200 gig for the last event, so we wanted to do double the capacity. So we wanted to do 400 gig over the simplex fiber. And yeah, early on we already concluded that we needed to use some DWDM technology due to the distance and loss of the fiber. There is the UK-based hacker camp, EMF, or electromagnetic field. They deployed a solution with 4 times 10 gig over DWDM using simplex and 8 channels. So we kind of wanted to see if we can copy this concept. We did some tests in the lab with ADVA equipment, 400 gig coherent, that from my employer we still had lying around, and we tried to put the receive channel on channel A and then the transmit on channel B. But yeah, this didn't work. We talked to ADVA about this, and they said, yeah, you have to buy another product if you want to do something like this. So we learned that with the coherent technology these days, the RX and TX frequency always needs to be the same. So I went on IRC and I asked around in the DENOG channel, and some people gave some suggestions to solve the issue. One of them is like, hey, you could maybe use optical circulators, and there the RX and TX frequency can actually be the same. But we didn't think this was a very good solution, because the optical circulators they have, if there's a lot of reflection and loss on the fiber, yeah, this might not be a very stable solution. Yeah, then also Nico came around and he had a somewhat cursed idea, so which he.
Yeah, we talked about that in the office, and we just bought some fancy new 400 gig equipment from Smart Optics, and we were like, oh, that shouldn't care about the idea we had. So we can't do 2 different channels, but we can do more optics. And what happens when we use one optic only for the TX side and another optic on another channel for the RX side? That wouldn't work in your normal router, because that router is like I receive light, then I'm sending, but if I don't receive light, I don't want to push packets out of that port. But DWDM equipment usually doesn't care about that. There might be other equipment out there, but not the stuff we use. That's like quite happy with doing light in one direction only. In this case, this is the Smart Optics. And the local fiber had a surprise. It has had over 20 dB of loss on the 50-kilometer link, which is something you would normally expect for 100 kilometers, a bit below or a bit above that. But the normal optics wouldn't work with that. So I did the first testing and also incorporated an amplifier in that. The idea was to split up the signal from the router before the DWDM equipment, and you can see on the top left. So these are 2 chassis of our Smart Optics device we use for that. The second port on the left, you can only see a fiber on the right, so there is light going in the optic, and on the 4th port there's light coming out of the optic. This was the lab setup we used with a 40 kilometer of fiber plus added attenuators to, well, get roughly the loss of the KPN dark fiber we had. And this is basically the schematic of how we built that. That might be a bit easier to see than the previous photo. So our provider, carrier grade Fritzbox on the left, gets the TX port patched to one of the client ports of the Smart Optics transponder, and the RX port is coming from another client port from the Smart Optics transponder. And this is only changing from the gray optic to the colored 400 gig ZR Plus optic. And from there, it's business as usual, as you would expect. We have got our DWDM MUX, like we had in England last year, but this time we only use 2 channels with 400 gig per direction. So one channel is this direction, and the other channel is that direction for the TX. So basically, we are using twice the amount of hardware, which was thankfully loaned by my employer. Otherwise, this would have been really expensive. And I'm not sure if our other sponsors, like Flex Optics, would ship many thousand euros worth of optics just for a fun event. I heard they also have sometimes says, this is expensive. Yes, I know. Thank you still. But yeah, this is the schematic. To make it even more interesting, our hardware there didn't use 1 times 400 gig, but we used 4 times 100 gig breakout with an MPO box. So cabling was a lot more interesting on the top right. This was the pop in between, where we went from our Surf-sponsored 400 gig coherent channel to our local loop DWDM multiplexed single mode, single fiber link. On the top left in the picture, you see the MPO breakout box for the, in this case, 3 ports, 1 from Amsterdam, 2 towards the field, where also only every second port is patched, because one optic is doing TX and the other optic is only RX. Monitoring-wise, you can see that some graphs were a bit weird, because of course one optic isn't reporting OSNR, it doesn't receive light, it's just sending light out. And over there you can see the power failure we had on site, because the high voltage line failed, unfortunately. But besides that, this was running for a week for the event. We had no issues. We would do that again. Not sure if you want to use that for a customer.
No.
That depends on you. It scales. You can throw more channels on it and more money, and then you can do 800 gig or even more. But still, twice the amount of optics to get the data done. So the BiDi technically doesn't exist. Still, it can hurt you or just make an event happen with more bandwidth than needed. But we wanted to pull that off, to show that it works, and also continue the trend of delivering more bandwidth. So, do you have questions?
Thank you. We do have time for 1 or 2 questions. Over there.
Also, Flex Optics has a talk later on why it wouldn't work with one optic. I heard there's some information about the frequency in there.
Andre Grunewald, Basics. Well, I've come across about some feature in some vendors. They have some unidirectional mode, so you could plug your optics probably into those devices. Arista.
Oh, that might have worked. Well, this was connected to our Juniper routers, so I'm not sure if they would accomplish that, but it might be worth a try. I haven't played with the unidirectional feature. Or is it UDLD to just disable a port if it's unidirectional, the feature? But yeah, that might be worth a look.
Okay. Thank you, Arjan and Nicola.